What's up guys, Chasing Lady here and welcome back to episode 12 of From Grove to Glory, and we're starting on the standing screen for some good reason. First of all, so we can see where we're at. Currently 6th place with 41 points. George Russell sits 10th in the Drivers' Championship on 26. Kubica 13th on 15 points. But before we get into this episode, there's been a few changes in the driving lineup. You might have already spotted it if you were looking closely. Max Verstappen has made a move to Haas, which I think was precipitated by Kevin Magnussen moving to Toyota in the LMP series. Um, so that's a thing that's happened. And if we go into the Red Bull team, you will see that they've replaced Verstappen with Graham Rahal from the IndyCar series, which is a banging pickup. He's a really good driver, but not one you'd necessarily have predicted coming. Meanwhile, I said I had a new driver coming in. I've made a slight change to the lineup. We no longer just have Kubica and Russell. I have binned off Ollie Rowland because it was annoying me that he had Jamie Chadwick's face. So I've made change and I've brought in Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso is now driving for the team. I think I've probably got among the best driver lineups on the grid. Still kept Robert Kubica because he's really good at setting up a car. We know George Russell has the potential to become almost as good as Alonso, so that's beneficial. It's saying we've only got the fourth best driver lineup in the sport behind Renault, Ferrari, and Mercedes, which is an interesting, that's an interesting assessment because I would say that's certainly better than what Renault were offering. So I don't know. I'm guessing Valtteri Bottas must have been massively overrated on the game because there's no way that's a better lineup. Anyway, yeah, we've got a really good team going. The car still been some development going on. I'm trying to avoid spending money because we're sort of on the bubble there, especially with extra rows coming. There will be maybe some more parts I design on the way, but yeah, we're gonna head into the Munich Grand Prix, which is the second time we've been to Munich this season. The second of 3 times I think we're going to Munich this season actually. I guess because there aren't 21 tracks on the game. We're also going to Brazil twice, so that should be interesting. Yeah, so let's just get everything all set up. I reckon I can take that 10th or above bonus. I'm feeling confident because, you know, I've got Fernando Alonso. We all know the drivers make a real difference. It's saying we're very low on tyre wear, so it feels unnecessary taking that many hard tyres. I think maybe we'll go for 5 sets of softs, 6 sets of mediums, because, you know, in fact let's do it that way around for George, because we know he sometimes needs the extra help getting through qualifying. And yeah, let's get into the race, and let's see what we can achieve, shall we? So we made it through practice. You can see we managed to get near perfect setups. In terms of knowledge, we're running qualifying trim and soft tyre knowledge today. We got the hard tyres and the race trim because I think we might be able to do this as a one or a no stop race. So I thought we'd build all the knowledge up we'd need, because if it's going to be a one stop, it will be probably softs to hards or hards to softs anyway. So let's get into Q1 and see what we can do. Fernando Alonso, by the way, made it through to 8th in practice, which is excellent, and we're going to send him out first because I think giving him a clear track is the smart thing to do here. And we're going to hope, very much hope, that we can put ourselves certainly into Q2. The sponsor objective, of course, is a car in Q3. We've done that not so long ago, so, you know, with Fernando Alonso driving the car, it certainly seems possible, if not probable, that we will somehow pull this off. So let's go speed up to the end of the warm-up lap, and we'll see what we can, you know, what we can produce from this. Hopefully, something quite special would be a nice answer to that question. But when Alonso's pulling away on his warm-up lap, which is ideal. There wasn't that big a gap between me sending them out. So let's hope the combination of Russell in good form and Alonso being Fernando Alonso can see us nicely into Q2 after this first session. Alonso seems to have overheated his brakes though, so that's not at all ideal. That's not what we wanted in the slightest. So hopefully he'll make up for that on this lap as we go across the line. A little bit of a screen freeze, that's always good times. And I'd hope he'd have clear track ahead of him, but it doesn't look like he will. He's got someone coming out of the pits, Danny Kvyat coming out the pits just ahead of him. Now hopefully Kvyat will stay well out of our way and let us crack in a lap time. I'm sure I've said this before. The first run of Q1 really is more about laying rubber down than a time. I don't think you'll ever see a time go through from Q1 that works out that well, especially when you look at the track grip chart. We're not expecting any rain, so we are very much going to have to wait this out and see what happens. Fernando isn't making short work of Danny Kvyat though, which is not encouraging, because you'd think Kvyat would have been slow on an outlap. It's saying we're plus 0.02 of a second. I don't know what on, because I've not seen a time set. I'm guessing that's Hamilton's sort of gap predicted time. We are losing time in the third sector though. I noticed that in practice. I think it's just because our car isn't necessarily set up for tight cornering, and there's a couple of quite tight corners in this last sector. So I don't know. We'll have to see, but that's definitely costing us time. We're currently, Hamilton's just put his fastest time up. We're currently put 0.05 of a second down on where he was. I was saying 500. In fact, Hamilton hasn't put a time through yet. I'm very confused. I'm very confused by how this timing works today. Graham Rahal just set the new fastest Sector 1 though in the Red Bull. Going to prove to be an excellent pickup possibly for Red Bull if he keeps that kind of performance up. And we're just about to head across the line. We should be the first ones to cross the line. We've finally caught up with Danny Kvyat. He's kind of in our way a bit. You'd think he'd be out the way on this run to the line, but he's not. And what can we do? A 1:25.6 is not a bad lap at all. That felt pretty good to me too, boys. A 1:25.7 for George Russell, so we're going to have to see how that goes when we come back for the second run. So we're getting ready to do our second run in qualifying, and yeah, we've slipped down the order a little bit. We've got Alonso on 13th. We're going to send him on a fresh set of tyres because that seems like a smart play. George Russell is in 17th and very much needs to improve. He's been given the nod to be, the guy that remained in the seat. So we need to see him show me why I made that choice, or show everyone why I made that choice, really. Because if I start to get the feeling that Kubica would have done better, then Kubica will take the seat back. That's part of why I kept him. I wasn't certain genuinely who the better driver was. I knew Alonso was the best driver in the team because he's Fernando Alonso, and that's what Fernando Alonso does. But we'll see what happens. We need to make about 0.3 to get ourselves into Q2. So let's speed things up. Let's see where we end up. George Russell is at least looking a little bit racier this time. He's not lagging far behind Alonso. We should just about make it over the line. We're not totally pressed for it as we just come around the last corner past the entry to the pit lane. We'll go back into regular speed. Alonso's at good and perfect. Russell's at perfect and perfect. So let's see just how good a lap time they can pull out. The track is starting to rubber in, starting to look really good. So we will very much be seeing what we can achieve here. Yeah, not looking the worst. Not looking the worst yet, I think. But we'll see at the first sector time where we actually end up being. And that's qualifying finished. Everyone on the track will not set another time, which means that George Russell should be the last to cross the line. Let's see what we get with the first sector timing, which should be coming up very shortly. I say very shortly. There we go. 4 thousandths of a second off. Russell is half a second down, but 4 thousandths of a second down for Fernando Alonso. I can't see us going second in quali, but if we can keep it to losing within about 3 tenths in the next sector, I'd be very confident of us making it through to the second part of. I mean, I say that we are currently in Q2 with Alonso. Regardless, we're very much playing for Russell to make it through to Q2 because the only person left across the line is Giovinazzi, and he's just ahead of us. And Giovinazzi would have to do something spectacular to eliminate Alonso at this point. It's not mathematically possible, so we're going to have to see. But what interests me here, Alonso's 1/10 of a second down. He's currently ahead of Graham Rahal, who was leading the timing at one stage. Like I said, third sector is weak for us. It's definitely a weakness for us. So we're gonna. I mean, George Russell is almost certainly going to drop out of qualifying in Q1. But what can Fernando Alonso do? He crosses the line, and that takes him 8th. George Russell has not been able to improve. He is going to go out in the first qualifying session, but Fernando Alonso 3 seconds off the pace, but 8th fastest. What a result for us! And so that leaves Giovinazzi, Russell, Stroll. Giovinazzi, Russell, Stroll, Perez and Kvyat as the ones we lose in this session. So let's get into Q2, shall we? So Q2 looms over us. I'm going to send Fernando Alonso out on a set of mediums for this first run. I just want to lay some rubber on the track, get that rubbered in as fast as I possibly can. Then it's going to be very much a case of watching that track temp and seeing if we get a bright, sunny, warm end to the session occurring, because ultimately, yeah, that could be that little kind of touch of the difference. Sorry, between a good lap and a great lap is the on-track temps. Currently running at about 18 degrees, which is a little bit cold. It's apparently going to stay fairly stable, though I guess we'll see once we move into the next block of time what it's saying about the temperature, but you'd assume it's going to hold fairly steady. It looks like they're predicting it to hold steady. So let's just get this track as rubbered in as we possibly can. I mean, I'd like us to be able to go out and set a respectable lap, but you know, we're not fussy. We just want to see something. Better than we've been seeing so far. But like I said, I'd love it if Alonso could qualify in 10th or inside the top 10. That would be good for us financially. I say good for us financially. The financial rewards on offer are awful. It's £20,000, which doesn't make a dent in our catering budget. But you know, you play with Williams, you end up with the smallest sponsor budget, I guess. Because Williams can't attract sponsors because they can't win races in real life, or in fact even do well enough in them to get themselves on TV long enough to get a good sponsor. But we're going to change that. That's our plan. We are going to change that. That's why we're going from Grove to Glory. And yeah, we'll see where we go on this optimization. I don't know why I've kept us watching this so long. I could have just made it go through faster. Let's do that. Cross the line and let's see what kind of a lap we put in. And we're not going to hit any traffic, so that might be to our benefit, but also we are, of course, running the medium tyres that we don't have a great knowledge of, so it could go either way. Like I said, in Q1 Graham Rahal looked very racy, like very racy. I said he'd be a good pickup for Red Bull, but I may have underestimated just how good a pickup he's going to actually be for Red Bull. He's certainly good enough to be that number one driver in the team, so we will, I guess, find out. Fernando Alonso's gone purple. I would not expect that to last long because Hamilton's on a flyer, Gasly's on a flyer, and so is Kimi Raikkonen, and you know, you'd be very surprised if Hamilton didn't take that purple first sector. He does. The Hamilton-Alonso rivalry of days gone by looks like it's set to continue for a little bit longer. Hopefully we'll actually be able to see that on track. But Alonso just, he's on his own little thing. Let's speed things up just a touch, because otherwise we'll be here all day doing qualifying. And I don't want to be here all day doing qualifying. I just want to get qualifying done, which, makes sense, doesn't it? We are going to come back at the 2-minute warning as well. So, 2 runs hopefully will be enough to get us through. We'll see what we can do. As we cross the line, what's the time going to be? It is a 1:25.8, which is not far off where we were at in Q1. So we'll see what we can do. So we've hit the 2-minute warning. The sun should be about to break through the clouds. We have hit more or less maximum grip on the circuit. We're going to stick on another set of soft tyres and try and make this through into Q3, because that feels certainly doable. We're currently sat bottom of the time sheets, but remember we did that first lap on mediums. I think the delta is somewhere around 0.5-ish in the game. So in real terms that would put us 9th, but we'll see how that goes, because almost everyone else is currently on track. I think we would be the last people to put in a qualifying lap, unless in fact, no, we should be seeing Nico Hulkenberg maybe come through as well. We'll see what happens. We'll see how things look once we start that flyer. Let's do a quick fast forward, because we can do that in the game. We're in the final minute of the session, so no pressure on Fernando's shoulders at all. We just need a really good lap on a track that's in the best condition it's been in all day, at a time when the weather is absolutely perfect for it as we cross the line. He's overheated the brakes, but he's got the tyres where they should be, so we'll see how he can make that work. You'd very much like to see him get through, wouldn't you? You'd like to see him pull off some kind of wonder return to F1, and we know he's good enough to do it. We should be the last one crossing the line on a flying lap as well, which means we'll get the benefit of the track being as grippy as it can possibly be. Hulkenberg's about to cross the line. As you can see, Leclerc and Vettel have finished. They're the top dogs at the moment. Hamilton, then Rahal again leading the way for the Red Bull team. Bottas, Grosjean, Ricciardo, Verstappen, Hulkenberg and Carlos Sainz, who has also finished. Grosjean goes 5th. Hulkenberg has put his car in 8th. Verstappen will be crossing the line very shortly. Pierre Gasly is just ahead of us too, so we're going to very much see this shake up in real time. And that's going to be potentially a key thing for us. Fernando Alonso is currently 4/10 down after sector 1, which is not where we need him to be. That's ominous. He needs to keep control of his times now through these 2 sectors. Raikkonen's moved up into 10th at 9/10 off. That's going to be an important marker. We're still 5/10 off. If we finished where we are behind, we'd be just ahead of Gasly, who has crossed the line and finished. So we're very much just trying to stay within 7/10 of that 1:24.4. No pressure at all, Fernando. The entire team's hopes for this weekend are resting on you. Do we have a catering budget, or are we eating McDonald's? That's the big question. The big question that only Fernando Alonso can answer as he goes across the line. What's he going to give us? Hopefully something good. He's gone through in 13th. Oh, I told you guys, we're losing something in that like a lot of time in that last sector. Raikkonen, Sainz, Alonso, Norris and Albon out, but we're losing in that 3rd sector, and that is... yeah, it's worrying. It's really worrying. Kimi Raikkonen's hurt, so at least he gets a free pass with his dodgy neck. But that's absolutely atrocious. So we've got Leclerc, Vettel, Hamilton, Verstappen, Rahal, Bottas, Grosjean, Gasly, Ricciardo and Hulkenberg in the top 10 shootout. So yeah, very much a top 5 teams picture appearing. Let's simulate Q3 because we're not involved, and let's just see how this all shakes out for us. I mean, I'm a big fan of Graham Rahal. I'd love to see him put it on pole. Don't think it will happen, but I'd like to see it. Presumably at some point it will happen. and will celebrate wildly. But we'll see what happens here. Qualifying's ended, and that's your top 10. Hamilton, Vettel, Leclerc, Bottas, Rahal, Ricciardo, Grosjean, Vettel, Hulkenberg, and Gasly. Nice and straightforward. Very nice and straightforward. Right, I guess that's probably time we got into the race. They want Haas to win a better car for him, and Grosjean didn't just get into Q3. Fernando Alonso is not happy. That's worrying. So, I'm going to get things set up, and then we're going to go to 5 red lights. So here we go then, to 5 red lights. We're going on a 2-stop strategy for this 48-lap race because neither of them were able to take their tyres the full distance. We've started 4 laps down on fuel. Fernando is on a slightly more aggressive tyre strategy because he can look after his tyres a little bit better. And I'm hoping, if we can, when we get into the pit cycle, we should be in a position where we are close to the front. Or I say close to the front, we should be close to the front after the first set of pit stops, and hopefully Alonso will have enough in his tyres once the other teams have switched to maybe pull away a little bit. As we move into 11th now, 12th, we're doing a little dance with Pierre Gasly. It's not the first one we've done this season, probably won't be the last, but Fernando Alonso should certainly have the measure of Gasly over the course of a race. Sorry, I've got a small cough has appeared. That's always worrying at this time. But we've moved into 10th. And yeah, top 10 is where we want to be. We want to be finishing in the top 10, getting on the points. We've had some really good results so far this season, which have mostly been based on strategy. So you would hope that we can continue that with Alonso. George Russell's moved up to 16th. He's not necessarily having the best start of his life, but he's moved up to 16th. But yeah, you'd hope Alonso could get himself up into the higher end of the points, because we've been able to get a few cars heading that way this season already. So it'd be nice to see if we can turn Alonso into a contender at the front, and certainly we're going to continue trying to develop the car as best we can to that end as well. So Alonso moves up into 9th with 3 wide down the back straight. That's, it's always a bit nervy when you're 3 wide. We go into this corner. He should just pull away. He does, and we need to start kind of pushing. We know we're good through the first 2 sectors. We also know it's this final sector where we really struggle for pace. But Alonso seems to not be having a massive amount of trouble right now. He is holding on to the back of Ricciardo. He's pulling away a little bit from Sainz and Hulkenberg, which is good. And yeah, we should be plain sailing. George Russell is going backwards at the moment, which is a little bit troubling. He seems to be struggling a little bit for tyre temp as well, which again, a little bit worrying because he shouldn't be doing that badly. Alonso's pulled himself onto the back of Ricciardo though, and down the back straight maybe he's got something to offer. Certainly if we, as soon as we practically can, get ourselves on the ERS boost, then hopefully he'll find his way past someone, and we'll do the same with George Russell in the hope that he can finally get away from being near the back of the field, because that would be the ideal. Go into the twisty section. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to energy harvesting mode, because there is that long back straight where we can burn the rest, and I know this means that Verstappen's going to start pulling away from us, but I'm not overly concerned, because if he burns all of his ERS now, then what's he got left to play with when we get round to that back straight? Which in fact, just round the next corner we should have a long piece of road, but we can burn some ERS and hopefully start to pull away. So if we round the bend, we hit the ERS, going to get George Russell on it early because he's dropped to the back of the pack, which is an appalling showing, really. Really is starting to make me question whether or not I made the right choice with replacing Kubica. But Alonso should just be able to make it through here, and then we should make it onto that long back straight. We'll harvest some ERS through this corner. Wait till we've made the move for 8th, and we've made the move for 8th. Now let's pull away down this straight. And again, we'll pull away with George Russell if we can as well. He's attempting a move on Kimi Räikkönen. Tyre temperatures are high as we come to the end of lap 2. which is a good time to pull back into neutral on the tyres, and hopefully we can kind of settle down and get ourselves into a good position for the rest of the race. Obviously if the tyre temps start dropping too low, we'll push them back up. We've got some tyres to play with. To run to the end we need to be pitting after lap 10, so we'll see where we end up with that. But let's move into the faster pace mode, because Alonso's made his move for 7th, and hopefully George Russell's just made up 3 places in one corner. That's magnificent work in a sector we're generally not the best at. Let's move into fast pace and see what we can do. George Russell's really going to struggle at the back. You can tell he's going to be there for most of the race already. There's cars ahead of him on medium tyres that he is nowhere near, whereas Alonso is currently trying to make an overtake on Charles Leclerc, which is bold, but he looks like he might be able to get the job done. He has got the job done. He's got the job done on Charles Leclerc for 6th. Can he hold on to it? He can. He's held on to it. Let's move forward. And now we're coming on to the back of Max Verstappen. If we can take Max Verstappen before we even get into a pit cycle, then we might be partying back at Grove tonight. Because if we can pass Max, you'd think we'd be able to at least catch Grosjean for what would be 4th, presuming all else goes in our favour. But we'll certainly see. Max has moved up to George moved up to 17th. But again, he's very much involved in that scrap at the back. He's not overtaking as well as you'd hope he would do. We're on the back straight. Let's do a quick burst of ERS for Fernando Alonso. See if we can close that gap to Max Verstappen, which is currently at 0.6 of a second, which is far, far from ideal. George Russell is complaining that he's having to stare at the back of Lando Norris's car. I'm not overly happy he's staring at the back of Lando Norris's car either. Graham Rahal is behind us, which is again a little bit worrying, because we do not want Graham Rahal to be chasing us down if he shows any of the pace he did in qualifying during the race. Although we're doing okay as well with Fernando, so we shall certainly see what happens. We're literally just going to kind of ride these tyres until they start dropping off, because with both drivers really, although less so with Fernando, we should be able to switch to a set of hards. Fernando could probably switch to a set of mediums and make it to the end. Russell can certainly make it to the end on a set of hards, and it's just going to be a case of whether or not people are going to two-stop and try and make it to the end that way, which is certainly a possibility. As we're kind of sat nicely in 6th now, I think what we're going to do, we'll switch focus very briefly to George Russell, because he seems to at least be involved in something more interesting than a game of follow the leader. George Russell's definitely involved in something more interesting than follow the leader. There's 5 cars there together. He's going to lose 17th, possibly around this bend. And he's holding on to it. He hasn't held on to it. And now he's going to drop back to 19th. That last bend is really, really troubling him. Fernando is losing his touch on Max Verstappen just a little bit, but we'll see how that all comes out in the wash with pit stops and so forth, because I think we've got enough about us to make it, as far as we need to make it really. Although to be fair, the tyre wear is not, the tyre temps are not dropping rapidly whilst we are on the sort of standard tyre usage. And now George has fallen all the way to the back, and he's going to work really hard again to get himself back up anywhere away from these guys. I mean, Kimi Raikkonen shouldn't be all the way back there either, you would think. But neither of these guys should be battling at the back. Absolutely neither of these guys should be battling at the back. And George Russell's form is just horrendous in this race, to be honest. Fernando is currently defending 6th place from Graham Rahal, but Hulkenberg has made his way through as well. Let's give that little ERS boost to Alonso, see if he can pull away from that battle a little bit, because that would be ideal. George Russell's just found himself in a battle for 18th, 19th. We'll give him the ERS boost as well, see if he can maybe get himself clear, although Sergio Perez is on a set of hards ahead of him, and he's not making massive inroads on him. He's just dropped back down to 19th again. Fernando seems fairly comfortable in 6th, although we are going to have to start making a a small think about whether or not we bring in for some tyres very soon, because those tyres, they're going to drop off soon. We want to get as much out of them as we can. About 20% is the limit on them before they fully drop off. So I think we're going to wait until one of the guys drops to about 25, and that's when we're going to start thinking about bringing them in. Fernando will make his go slightly further. You can see he started on a more aggressive tyre strategy than George Russell, and he's just about even on tyre wear, which is mad. Lando Norris has come into the pits, a very early pit stop onto a set of used softs, which is very bold. It's saying worn tyres, don't you panic, we're not in the danger zone just yet. It just always warns me when we get to 30% on tyres. But we'll see what we can do here. I mean, maybe the pit cycle is our chance to make an impression on the race a little bit, especially for George Russell, as Alonso crosses the line. And you can now see that Russell's tyres are degrading much faster than Fernando's, so it's going to be very much a case of see what we can achieve. I think maybe the next lap is going to be the one where we bring them in, because that's about 4% we've lost in that lap. In fact, what I might do is I might give George the nod to come in now, because with 35 laps remaining, he can certainly get 35 laps on a set of hard tyres. Everything's looking good on the engine. Let's add some charge, because that's always a strong plan. And I'm going to have to risk a fast pit stop with him. It's probably not the ideal, because the pit crew are slightly tired. But whereas with Alonso we know he'll make up the time, I don't know if I've got the same faith in George Russell to make up the time. So I've got to take that gamble and see if we can maybe leap a couple of people as we cycle through the pits. Lando Norris is probably within range of catching, but also you'd expect someone else will probably come into the pits at about the same time. I know it's very unorthodox to bring in your second place driver, your lowest ranked driver, for a pit first, but that's the way it's going to be. And there's part of me that's tempted to see if I can get one more lap from Fernando on these tyres and run a set of mediums to the end. It's a risky strategy though. I think we'll go to the hards with Fernando, because we know we can give them a bit of a push if we need to. We'll go to full charge, and we'll put him on the regular pit strategy, because it should only make about 0.2 of a second difference. And he's certainly 0.2 of a second faster than George Russell. So we'll see how this comes. Anyone else coming into the pit at the same time as George, or is he going to be the first to blink on this little pit cycle here? We are about to find out, I suspect. I suspect we will find out the hard way. George should just be pulling into the pits now. And yeah, but everyone's going to kind of get away from a little bit. Lando might not. We will see what happens once he gets into the box. What have we got in terms of a stop there? Everything goes perfectly. It's a 1.9. A 1.9 is just about ideal, to be honest. And now we've got Fernando Alonso about to pull onto that long sort of curving. It's almost a back straight. So we're going to give him that little ERS push now. See if we can bridge that gap to Graham Rahal. We're going to go and turn everything up as high as we can. It's going to burn a little bit of fuel, but I feel like we'll probably gain it back. But also we need to kind of get him a really good in lap, so that we can minimize our losses in terms of time, because that's going to be absolutely vital, I think, in terms of gaining positions through the pit cycle. So we're going to come through, speed things up a little bit. As we come around the back corner, I will start dropping things down to see what we can get out of this pit stop. You can see we're slowly bridging the gap back to Verstappen. Might be within 1 second of him when we come in, which would be great. Not quite, almost there. And Romain Grosjean is also into the pits, so a good stop here could do wonders for us. And let's give George Russell the benefit of all that ERS. because that's definitely the way forward. It's a good pit stop, a 2.1. It was like I said, 0.2 of a second, not too shabby. And okay, Alonso is going to come out in 16th, but you know he's in 18th, but he's in 18th with clearish air ahead of him. And I'm not going to push the ERS button straight away with him. I'm going to check to see what we look like when people start coming in for stops, and we're going to try and beat them whilst they are effectively on a slow lap. Because we should start catching up with people like Carlos Sainz, even on hard tyres. We should start catching them up fairly quickly. And we've got a few cars in for the pits there. See if anyone else dives off into the pits here. They haven't. Gained 3 more places through that pit cycle, which was to be expected. Anyone from above us who has disappeared behind us? Not quite yet. Romain Grosjean got out sort of much faster than us as well, but we should still be able to start catching up, which is, I think, going to be really important for us throughout the rest of this race. We've got another few people coming in for a pit cycle here. Moves us up into 13th. I kind of want these cars ahead of us to start looking like coming in before things get really bad, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So we will wait until we get round to the straight here. Really hammer the ERS through that one. Wait till we get around this section. He's going to try and cut through for 11th and onto the ERS to make sure we take 12th. Can we get onto the back of Carlos Sainz? We can get onto the back of Carlos Sainz, or past Carlos Sainz, which it looks like we've almost. Seb Vettel's taking the lead, but Lewis Hamilton has come in for a pit stop, and that's actually quite a good, would have been quite a good sighter for where we were at. We haven't particularly caught up with him. We're still 20 seconds behind Lewis, who you'd think is probably going to the end on the set of tyres he's on now. We're going to give a bit of a push on the tyres for Fernando, because you know he is struggling. What's George Russell's tyre life like? 32 laps. Couple of laps on push for him, and we should be able to get ourselves back in the window for maybe securing a place that's not 20th. Maybe. We're in 11th now with Fernando onto the back of Max Verstappen. There's still a few people ahead of us, need to make some stops. We're going to hit the ERS to see if we can bring Alonso into that battle just ahead of us. Though Bottas is on the medium tyres, you'd expect him to start pulling away. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We're not planning on making any more stops. We're sticking with this to the end, folks. We're not out of the battle. We've now got Max Verstappen ahead of us. We are closer to Max than we were. Max, I think, just came in for a stop. I think, maybe not. Either way, we're up into 10th, and that's what really matters. One more lap of this, and I think it will be time to drop George back down to saving some tyres, because, you know, like I said, he's not great on the old tyre saving. Was that Charles Leclerc coming through? To add to the battle, but can we power past him using what little ERS we've got? We can, and that's all we need. It's literal push to pass this time. Literal push to pass. We're holding on to 10th. Charles Leclerc is going to give us a battle to the end, though. We ideally need a couple of these guys, Sainz and Albon and Fiat maybe, to come into the pits and start looking like they're going to make a stop, because that is the only way we're going to secure 10th, I think, with Rahal and Leclerc behind us looking very, very racy. Very racy. Sainz is about to come in, though, so that's going to help us and do wonders. I'd like to beat him on the track before we come in, but there we go. We've beaten him on the track before he comes in. That's going to be absolutely perfect for us, and now he's pulled away. Leclerc has taken advantage. Fiat has also stopped and needs some repairs, so that's pretty much him out of the running in the top 10. And hopefully gives us a little bit of comfort. Giovinazzi and Albon still up the road, still needing to make a stop though. So we've still got to do some defensive work. We've still got to make things work as best we can. We're going to go on the push to pass there. We're on the push to pass with George Russell. Can we make this through? I can. I know I can. It's like the littlest engine or whatever that bloody children's book's called. For Alonso attempting a pass on Alex Albon. He's already passed him once in this race. Albon's coming in for a pit, which means his tyres are probably about to go off. Which means hopefully Alonso can find his way past him on the track again. He can, but everyone's gone up the inside. Rahaal's gone up the inside. Leclerc's gone up the inside. Alonso stays in eighth despite making the overtake, and Graham Rahal is gone. Graham Rahal has left us behind. He says, "See you later. I'm on mediums, having all the fun." And now we've got ourselves a safety car, which means we've got to make a really big decision here. We have got 22 laps to go. Set of softs might make it 22 under a safety car, which does beg the question: should we do it? Could we do it? Will we do it? Let's do it. Let's make that happen. Let's get a fast stop in. In fact, let's do a balanced stop. It's under a safety car. Just thinking, can we get Alonso to the end on any of these tyres? We can't because I've burned all the softs. It'll be tight. Really tight. But again, if we do a little bit of a save, under the safety car, maybe it's a big maybe, because everyone has of course reduced themselves to safety car speed. Using the ERS isn't really going to achieve anything bar emptying the battery, which actually I kind of wanted to do anyway. We've got one lap under the safety car. But a set of softs, it might make the difference. It might make all the difference we need. But like I said, we have one lap under the safety car. Let's get to the end of the. It says one lap left. Presumably we're going to do one lap then in this lap. I remember the last time I saw a safety car on Motorsport Manager. So let's get those tyres ready to be backed up, because I want us to be ready to go as soon as that safety car comes in. I want us to be ready to go, and I want us to hold on to as much of these tyres as we possibly can. We're not the only ones in. Perez has come in, Giovinazzi's come in. This could be a masterstroke from Perez because he started the race on hard tyres. No mistakes, a 2-second pit stop, that's perfectly adequate. We're going to hold on to that extra battery charge. George Russell also in on the double stack, because why would we not? And let's see what he can do on his pit stop. Hopefully no mistakes. Everything has gone perfectly. 2.1, that will do the job quite nicely. And like I said, hopefully the safety car will wait to gather everyone up before it decides to pull in. You'd think it would, but you know, it's going to be touch and go. It's going to be touch and go because nobody seems to be making any pains to reach the back of the safety car. But you'd feel confident on a set of soft tyres with so many guys ahead of us on mediums that would be something we could achieve. Assuming we make it to the back of the train, of course. We are just coming up on the back of the train now. That's going to be absolutely perfect. Nobody else has dived in. That's pretty good. The safety car is heading to the garage this lap. How many laps can we get off of these tyres still? It's still saying it's going to be marginal, really marginal. Hope another lap of saving before the safety car heads to the garage, and we should be in that magic zone. We should be in that magic zone, I say. Really, hopefully. Going to speed through as fast as we can until we get to that stage. George Russell's got a low fuel delta. Well, I should hope so. That was the plan all along. Thanks for playing, George. And as soon as that safety car hits the garage, in fact, let's follow along with the safety car, because I need to know as soon as he hits the garage so that I can, set the boys on their merry way. Everything is bunched up. As soon as we go to green flag racing, we are going to turn everything back up. We're going to hope for the absolute best. We're going to see what happens. The safety car into the garage. Things are all bunched up. Quick check on Alonso. What's he got? 20 laps. Is he going to get... He might just get them out of these tyres. Just... It will be close. George, what can he get out of these tyres? He should just, again, be able to make it. Just. And as soon as we go green, we are green, onto the ERS with you, back to neutral. We'll save tyres later if we need to, but now it's just about getting track position. And let's see what we can achieve off the line. That's going to be where it counts. When everyone gets back to full speed. And away we go up to full speed, crossing the line, 19 laps remaining. That's pretty much exactly what we have left on fuel. What can we do? Can we get ourselves back into the top 10? Can we get ourselves challenging the likes of Gasly, like Rahal, Ricciardo ahead of us, Stroll ahead of us, Hülkenberg ahead of us? It's going to take something big. We've taken Giovinazzi already. Now we're going, hopefully, up against Lance Stroll, and we'll take Lance Stroll quite easily, you would certainly hope. Going for the three wide there on Nico Hülkenberg, on Lance Stroll, up into 10th. We are up into 10th, and now we can get back to chasing after Danny Ricciardo again, and let's go back into full speed. George Russell's up to 15th, which is the highest he's been all race. Short-lived, but he's got there, and now we can start giving chase, and hopefully this will take us to the end. Like I said, it's going to be marginal on tyres, really marginal on tyres, but as soon as we settle into a place where we look like we're kind of comfortable, you think Danny Rick might have to make another stop. Charles Leclerc might have to make another stop as well. So as long as we can stay within touching distance of them, we should be doing just fine. Well, I say we should be doing just fine. You'd hope we'd be doing just fine. We're currently in 10th. We're trying to chase down Ricciardo. Ricciardo's tyres are certainly worn, and we're more looking for him to make a mistake than anything. Pierre Gasly is having to use hybrid mode to conserve some fuel. We should have no such issues, although we've just dropped back down into 11th. Giovinazzi overtaking Alonso. Should be able to get him back, though he has. He's got him back up the inside. It's going to be a big old battle between Alonso and Giovinazzi, and Giovinazzi's just edged us out for now. But this race isn't over yet. It's not over yet. There's still pit stops to come. There's still potential for mishaps and other such drama to happen ahead of us. Alonso's certainly got the pace to get through. Has he got the tyres to take it to the end? That's the biggest question of the day. In fact, now I'm thinking about that big question of the day, we're going to go back into conserve on both drivers, because I may have just mathed the whole thing very wrong, and hopefully that doesn't cost us anything, because like I said, there should still be pit stops ahead of us. We're just going to do 2 laps of conservation on the tyres. Really try and stretch them out as close to the end as we can. George Russell is currently making a move on Carlos Sainz, but hasn't quite got there, and that's going to be disappointing for him, for everyone really. But Danny Rick still almost certainly needs to go in for another stop, and there's a real question mark over will he be quick enough if he has to make another stop. We're going to push some ERS through, see if we can make up a little bit of the difference, because Hülkenberg, you'd expect Hülkenberg to be conserving tyres. That Renault does not look after its tyres well, apparently. But we just want one free position for Alonso to get him into the points, because a point-scoring debut on his first day with the team would be really good. What's Alonso's tyres looking like in terms of making it to the end? 13 laps to go. Oh, it's touch and go. One more lap maybe. One more lap should maybe do it for us, if we're very lucky. And I feel like we'll have to be very, very lucky. My confidence in this strategy change has been minimised. I don't know if we'd have been in a better position if I just stayed on the Haas to the end. There we go. Ricardo's come in, letting us take 10th. Hulkenberg you'd expect to come in very, very soon. George Russell's up into 16th because people ahead of him have stopped. Danny Rick dropped right down behind him, so a really good defensive performance there would be helpful. We are starting to lose touch with 9th place, which is Giovinazzi. We're going to have a quick look again just to see what these tyres look like. Still saying 11 laps remaining. We'll see what it says when we cross the line. We've hit 8th place. 8th place, 11 laps remaining. It's so close. It's so close. It's really marginal. George Russell up into 14th though. Struggling to overtake Lando Norris, which has been the story of his race so far. But certainly not out of this one yet. Not out of this one at all yet. And I'm gonna have to keep checking every time we cross the start-finish line, because I need to have to push those tyres very, very soon. We're now 8 to 10 laps remaining. It's going to be so close. Alex Albon's got tyres to burn as well. Sergio Perez behind him has tyres to burn. It's going to be a real struggle to get to the end. What's George Russell's tyres saying? He's got 9 to 11. Maybe 9 to 11. It's going to be so close on tyres. So close on tyres. We are positive on the fuel deltas though, so we can at least start burning some ERS if we need to. And I'm going to start pushing that engine into a slightly higher mode, because I know we might well need that to stay where we are. Certainly for Alonso to stay where we are, I think his goose is probably cooked. Vettel's making an inroad back through the field as well. That's someone we've got to watch out for behind us. Albon and Perez, both people we need to watch out for. 8 laps remaining. Where are we on tyres now? 7 to 9. 7 to 9 should be just about okay, but again, one more lap, because Albon's not close enough that we're defending from him yet, and as soon as he gets close enough that we're defending from him, we'll be in real trouble. Charles Leclerc is about to take George Russell as well, put him back down into 16th, which is just the dream. And at this stage, once we cross the line, we should know where we're at on terms of tyres. 7 laps to go. What have we got left on? I'm going to have to risk it. I'm going to have to take the risk. I'm going to have to push him up. Push him up again. And we will see. Push them both up, in fact. And see if we can make this through to the end, which I'm not terribly hopeful about, because I think we're going to start seeing some proper tyre drop-off right at the end of the race. It's probably going to cost us a couple of positions. But we're aiming for 10th. That's the goal, ultimately. So we've got some ERS. Should we need to do some defensive work, should we need to do some fuel conservation, we still have that ability. And, George Russell holding on to 15th, though he does have Danny Ricciardo coming up behind him as well. So he could be about to lose a position. Although apparently he's currently attempting to overtake Charles Leclerc. Fernando Alonso's tyres are worn, but we expected that. Russell's up into 15th. What can we do? He's in a massive battle now, an absolutely enormous battle. Get on the ERS, George. Get on the ERS. Let's do it. Let's ERS this out. And keep an eye on the gap as well. Back to Fernando Alonso. Well, on Fernando Alonso's gap behind, because yeah, that could end very, very badly for him. We're losing a gear. We're losing a gear. It's okay. Things aren't as bad as they could be. Where are we at in terms of car condition with Alonso? We're okay. He's looked after his car. Let's switch back to Fernando, because his gap is becoming, a concern. A bit of a concern. With 3 laps to go now. 3 laps to go in the race. How many laps have we got left on the tyres? We should just make it. Just going to make it to the end. We've picked up a position because Pierre Gasly had to make a pit stop. Picked up 2 positions because Russell also got past Gasly, was in the pit stop. Gasly has tanked his own race. Sainz has tanked his race as well. Alonso holding off 7th from Sebastian Vettel. He's not going to hold off 7th, but also he has a whole a whole load of ERS to play with. So, what can we do? Come on, Fernando, you can do this. Get past him, back into 6th. I want to see it. I need to see it. 6th place. Come on, make it happen, son. Make it happen. I'm so desperately keeping an eye on these tyres. There's 2 laps remaining. Alonso's tyres are as marginal gets. We're going to drop back into conserve just to make sure we make it to the end, because those tyres are going to struggle. They are going to struggle. Fernando is very much struggling on the tyres. I'm going to drop him back down to save some fuel. I'm going to save some fuel with George too, because otherwise he's certainly not making it to the end. Fernando needs to go into ERS mode very, very rapidly. Very rapidly. And Alonso, he's going to cross the line. He's crossing the line in 10th, which is absolutely fine. He lost a couple of places whilst I was trying to see what George Russell could achieve. But we've crossed the line in 10th, and, you know, a point is a point. Valtteri Bottas wins the race from Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton in 3rd, Rahal in 4th, Giovinazzi in 5th, Vettel, Albon, Perez, Leclerc and Fernando Alonso. That was a far, far better race than I anticipated. When I say far better, it was far worse for us, because I thought 8th was nailed on. We managed 8th in a qualifying session, we managed 8th in practice. I thought 8th might be doable, and we have not achieved 8th. We have achieved 10th, and I can't help but thinking that might be my fault, because I brought in the guys under the safety car. But alas, hindsight is 20/20. You pays your money, you takes your choice. A lot of the guys ahead of us did 1 stops. Kvyat did a 1 stop and ended up far out of position. Raikkonen did a 1 stop, but his 1 stop was in the wall. So, good times. We should pass scrutineering, and hopefully someone won't pass scrutineering ahead of us. That would be the ideal. Let's see what happens. Lewis has lost 4 places after breaking the rules, which doesn't help us even in the slightest. And no one behind George has broken any rules. But that puts Graham Rahal on the podium in his first race in F1, which I actually quite enjoy seeing. I'm not going to lie. Now looking at the Drivers' Championship, George Russell has dropped a position because obviously Giovinazzi scored a big haul of points. Kubica has dropped because he didn't race. Fernando Alonso is bottom of the Drivers' Championship behind Kevin Magnussen, despite the fact Kevin Magnussen didn't race. Whew, it's been a big, big season. In terms of the constructors, we have dropped down to 7th, but we're still far enough ahead of 10th that you'd think we'd be safe, and that should take us nicely to the next race, where we can hopefully get ourselves a slightly improved car, and we'll see what happens. But now we've got the Motorsport Manager loading screen up, that feels like a good time to call this one a day. So thank you very much for watching, guys. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe below. It helps out the channel, helps out me. If we get to 10 likes, I'll do something cool on the channel. I don't know what, but I'll figure it out when it happens. Yeah, so until next time, guys, thank you for watching. I've been Chasing Lamely. Have a good one.